Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful start to the week out there, and we are very quickly approaching the Christmas holiday, and the weather does look pretty active this week, and I do think it's still kind of a bit of a confusing pattern where some folks could get some surprise snow, other folks could really get disappointed a little bit here in that department. But one thing we are confident in is a shot of very cold air during the second half of this week, really kind of a 1-2 punch of that cold air, and then we will watch the Christmas time frame itself right around the 25th for maybe another storm potential, and then a big warm up after that. So we're going to break all of it down for you in today's video. Now, I will ask if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Hit that bell for the latest notifications. And like the video and comment, let me know where you're watching from. Also, very quickly here at the beginning, I just want to say thank you. I haven't said that in a while, but I was kind of thinking over it a little bit last night. And I am just truly blessed to be able to have a platform like this to be able to kind of do what I love and communicate to you folks, even before completely finishing my degree here. I'm very blessed for that, and I don't think I often kind of verbalize that enough to you guys. So thanks, I guess. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and start talking about the weather here. I'm not going to go on all day about things you didn't show up for. So we will start with satellite loop like we normally do. This is the infrared. And basically, if you don't know what infrared satellite is, it just is kind of gauging the temperature of clouds and sometimes even the surface if the surface is cold enough. But it's kind of flipped on here. Actually, the brighter the colors you see, the colder the cloud tops are. So normally, warm colors would indicate warmer temperatures. In this case, the warm colors indicate cooler temperatures, which indicate higher clouds. And you're seeing some of those pretty high clouds this morning over the central part of the country. All of this is due to an area of low pressure beginning to spin up here, or really already has been spinning for a while, but continuing to spin over the northern tier of the country and getting into portions of Canada. And that is combined with enough kind of Gulf instability here beginning to produce some cloud cover and some showers and maybe even a couple of rumbles of thunder here across the central part of the country. Now, another place that you'll notice a whole lot of everything out west, just an absolute beast of an atmospheric river right now being pumped into California. And that is bringing active weather for you folks in the western half of the country. And it has been a pretty crazy week out there, hasn't it? Now, radar imagery, we will let's switch it up. Let's start out west today because we normally start in the east. And, let's do it for you folks out here. By the way, if you are watching out in the western half of the country, let me know. I know most of my viewers are in the east, but would love to hear from anybody watching out this way. Now, the big story is going to be the usual, basically mountain snow, coastal rain, and a lot of both of those things here into the northern half of the west. Now, LA, Bakersfield, Fresno, down to San Diego, pretty nice for you folks, but it's really San Fran northbound into Oregon, Washington, and into the northern Rockies here, getting in on that very active weather, whether that be snow or rain, obviously going to depend on your elevation, but plenty of it out there. And then we'll move to the east, and you'll notice a bit of a mess out here as well. Plenty of heavy rain down into the Ohio Valley. Like I said, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder, some scattered snow showers up into the northern tier of the country and getting up into Winnipeg and into the International Falls area there along the border. And then we do have a leftover disturbance from yesterday, kind of sliding on through the extreme southern half of the Northeast, really through Jersey, Long Island, and into coastal Connecticut, Rhode Island, and kind of the Cape here into Massachusetts. And you'll notice just a wee bit of cold air here on the north side, leading to some wintry precipitation for you folks in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and portions of Massachusetts. So definitely let me know if you're seeing it out that way, or if you're just getting in on a lot of this heavy rain. Definitely going to be location dependent on that one as well. Now, watches, warnings, advisories, really not a whole lot going on out here. We do have winter weather advisories here for a pretty good section here of the Northeast, from northern PA, the Scranton area, into extreme northern New Jersey, into the Hudson Valley, north of New York City, and then into much of Connecticut and Rhode Island. Like I said, a little bit of precipitation is frozen on the northern edge of that shield of precipitation. And is enough to lead to those winter weather advisories. Now, back out south, we actually have some very active weather here. Like I mentioned, that shield of heavy thunderstorms. This is actually leading to some flooding out here, it looks like, into portions of Missouri. In fact, I think this is even a tornado warning. Yeah, look at that. We have a tornado warning, at least at the time I'm recording this, not far from Cape Girardeau, kind of south of Park Hills, Missouri here, north of Poplar Bluff. So, definitely, like I said, I showed you on satellite imagery, those were some feisty storms, and sure enough, even enough rotation there to produce a tornado warning and flooding. So a real mess out of the Ozarks this morning. If you're watching down that way, definitely you are feeling that for sure. And a lot of fog to the north through Chicago, Milwaukee, anywhere in kind of these gray boxes are seeing some of that fog getting on down. Or not getting on down on the surface, it originates at the surface, but definitely impacting you folks. And then out west, active winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings for all of that active weather that you're seeing out that way. All right, speaking of the West, let's start out there and kind of time out the next couple of days for you. This afternoon, really more of the same. Heavy mountain snow through Idaho, Montana, into Yellowstone, into the mountains of Northern California, Oregon, and even Washington State. That continues overnight tonight. Really the same places getting the same stuff. Coastal rain also continuing. I think by the time we wake up Tuesday morning, nicer weather through California, but staying active into Oregon, Washington, and into the Northern Rockies where, trust me, plenty of snow will fall. That continues through Tuesday evening, overnight Tuesday. Another storm system works on through. That brings another round of coastal rain and mountain snow for your Wednesday afternoon. And then I think after Wednesday, we're going to have a bit of a nicer Thursday in store, but still you'll notice another storm kind of scraping the coast of Washington and Oregon here, but nicer the further inland you go. And then obviously you'll notice that storm gets out into the Great Plains and produces some active weather out that way. Now, how much snow are we talking? Well, a pretty good amount depending on where you're watching from. Yellowstone National Park, a lot. Same for kind of the heart of Idaho here, a foot, 2 feet plus of snow over the next 3 days or so. And then plenty here into the Cascades as well, kind of not far from Seattle and out here into the range, all the way down into Northern California. Lesser snowfall totals into the Sierra Nevadas. Most of the snow is just going to be to the north of you. You'll notice a pretty fine line here, kind of the California, Nevada, Utah state lines. Northbound is where we're going to see the heaviest of the snow, and plenty of it out here into the Rockies for sure. All right, let's get to the east and active weather out here as well. It's kind of both sides of the country getting in on the fun stuff here for your Monday. Like I said, the big theme today, I think, is going to be this area of rain. And, I was going to say earlier this morning that, not too much of a severe weather threat, but obviously enough to produce a tornado warning at least. Now, that may not be confirmed, but at least a warning there into Missouri. So do not let your guard down with this band of storms. Sometimes these things sneak up on us. Storm Prediction Center doesn't have a threat area today. And to be honest, I did not do a super deep dive into the kinematics and all. But generally speaking, the atmosphere is not super primed for severe weather. So even though we have that tornado warning, I wouldn't be overly concerned for a continuation of that threat in a big way. Now, could maybe another storm try to spin up in that area today? Absolutely. So go ahead and just play it safe. Have a way to get watches, warnings, advisories, all of that good stuff through your Monday afternoon. Now, that shield of rain continues into the Ohio Valley for, really the rest of the day. And going to be a chilly rain to the north here through Michigan, portions of Ohio, Indiana. It's this kind of southern section here where you notice the line begins to go from kind of a vertical standpoint to more of this horizontal standpoint. That's where we'll have more warm advection that could lead to maybe a couple of storms getting a little bit stronger than, you might want to see. So definitely watching for that during the afternoon. And all of this works east. And by the time we're getting into overnight tonight, this is about the midnight hour, a nice little stretch of some showers, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder from even Dallas all the way into northern Mississippi, Alabama, and into the Chattanooga area, even up into Knoxville. And then some showers to the north of there, less of a kind of thunder severe weather risk into West Virginia northbound. Into Pennsylvania and the Northeast, where we're just going to have a little bit less instability to kind of produce those stronger updrafts that would lead to some lightning. So kind of the big thing here also is just how warm the system is. This is bringing a big burst of warm air ahead of it. So we're going to get rain really everywhere in the United States. A couple snow showers up north into Minnesota and maybe even into the UP of Michigan, but really mostly a rain event out of this. This gets us into tomorrow morning, showers left over into New England, a couple showers left down into the southeast. But then it's after that Thursday afternoon, we begin to clear out a bit, a couple of scattered showers and maybe snow showers in the northeast as the cold air pushes on through. But Tuesday afternoon, here comes our next storm system beginning out into the Great Plains. And you'll notice this is going to bring some snow to some folks, I think, into the Dakotas, Iowa, Minnesota, and getting down into Wisconsin. And this gets us into overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. Now let's switch the models and go to the NAM. So let's see, we'll even back it up to where we left off. This is about 6Z Wednesday, meaning 1 in the morning on Wednesday if you're not familiar with Zulu time. It's just a time measurement scale that meteorologists use for, I would say for whatever reason, but the reason behind it is to kind of keep all of our models on the same page around the globe. Obviously, we have changing time zones, so it's easiest for the models to use Greenwich time, which is in the UK, and just It helps, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, all right, starting with this storm. Now, this is the first kind of storm that I think is going to be the next big impact in terms of winter weather in the United States outside of everything ongoing out west. And it'll also be storm one of kind of two, I would say, out of this colder pattern on the way now through this weekend. This one will definitely bring some snow, though. So we'll move this ahead into kind of early Thursday morning. A nice shield of snow showing up on the NAM here into Wisconsin, Michigan, even into the Chicago area potentially, and then all rain to the south. Now, we will watch for a bit of a severe weather threat out of this. Now, I'm not expecting any outbreaks or anything, but definitely could have a couple strong storms Thursday afternoon, or Wednesday afternoon rather, and probably Thursday afternoon potentially as well, there into the warm sector of that. And notice that shield of snow to the north. Eventually we get to Wednesday afternoon, later on in the afternoon, that is, and the storm's moving pretty quick, but a nice shield of snow to the north that could produce a good couple of inches of snow quickly into portions of the interior northeast. And the track of this low pressure will be very important. Obviously, if it slides south a little bit, that shield of snow will slide south with it. If it slides north, the opposite effect obviously will happen. So, we're going to have to iron out the details on that, but you get the point here. Snow into the interior northeast, showers to the south of there, and more importantly, I'll kind of draw here. Here is our cold front, and this will be a pretty feisty little cold front. This will cool things down pretty significantly by Thursday afternoon. Again, the system's moving pretty quickly. So I mentioned a severe threat Thursday afternoon. Probably not so much, really, honestly, looking at the model now. But definitely we'll watch for that on Wednesday and some interior snow into the northeast. Now, let's go ahead and I'm going to skip that map because I don't need that one pulled up. Let's take a look at snowfall totals, and we're going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of showing you the blended models, let's kind of look at all of our models and compare them and see who we think has the best chance of getting significant snow out of this setup. Now, I'll start with the European. It's painting a pretty good area of snow from Maine down to Vermont, New Hampshire, Western Massachusetts, even getting down into Scranton, portions of Connecticut, and even extreme northern New Jersey with a good couple of inches and being relatively elevation dependent, at least in terms of the highest totals. Now, either way, it should be a pretty good band of snow for most folks, and I do think some of these totals are about right. I think somebody could get 3 to 5 plus inches of snow, but overall, looks like one of those 2 to 4 inch snow events on the European. The Canadian model, similar story, but notice the difference in the location. Here's the European. Here's the Canadian. The Canadian shifts it inland a little bit more, but similar snowfall totals. What about the GFS? Here's the GFS, also shifts it inland a little bit more and even has some higher totals here up into the Adirondacks and the mountains of Vermont, New Hampshire, with lesser totals further south like the European had. The Icon model, kind of an in-between. In fact, it even gets some snow all the way down into portions of Pennsylvania. And then the final model here, I will show you the RDPS, kind of, a general, pretty similar to a lot of them, actually. So the things we can take away from this is both, or really all of the models, I should say, are pretty similar in snowfall totals. It looks like one of those 2 to 4 plus inch events. A couple places could get upwards of half a foot. Most people are going to be in that 2 to 4 inch range. The tougher part is the location of that snow. The European and the GFS obviously have pretty different locations on who's getting the most of the snow. And that's what we'll need to iron out. But I do think we are going to have a nice band of snow working on through the Northeast in a couple of days. As we get a little bit closer, we'll be more in depth on who exactly sees the highest totals, but definitely a snowy event for sure. Now, it's after that one that we get to our next storm, in quotes, I guess is the best way to put it. Main reason it's in quotes is because we don't really know if it's going to happen. And I'll tell you, the models have not really been excited about it over the past day or two, not nearly as excited as they were maybe 3 or 4 days ago. And there's a reason for it. So we'll show you the 500 millibar vorticity map and kind of the meteorology and minutes-esque segment today, although I've kind of been sprinkling in little meteorological facts all day for you. So hopefully you find some use in that. Here we go, though. So here's the piece of energy associated with it. This is Thursday afternoon. Remember, at this point, this was our first little storm. You'll notice the front here and our vorticity associated with it. Getting on out of here, well, another piece of energy, and kind of follow this back in time a little bit. I'll back up the map just a little bit for you here. It kind of dives down out of the northern Rockies. It's one of those Pacific storms. You'll notice it comes ashore Wednesday afternoon, then gets into the Rockies, and then dives southward. And we just had one cold front move through, so cold air is established, and I do think this will produce snow. Here's the problem, though. For those of you that want a big snowstorm, a big coastal storm, if I were to zoom this out and look at the 500 millibar map, there would not be really anything to slow this thing down. This is moving at really lightning speed here, and the problem problem with that is it doesn't have time to really crank up. It starts kind of, broad, messy, and weak, and then it tries to tilt kind of neutrally at this point. But by the time it's getting to a neutral tilt, and then just so you know, neutral tilt is kind of halfway to a negative tilt, which is what you want for a big storm to form. By the time it gets there, it's already crossing places like Charlotte. It's crossing Virginia. It's getting through much of the Northeast, and then it finally tries to turn negative. But by the time it does it, folks, it's well off the coast of the Northeast, and the window is too late because the storm is moving too quick. So that's kind of the problem we're running into with this one, and you can see that on the operational runs. That's storm number 1 here. That's the one I just talked about that would bring snow. Behind it, here's the next one, and like I said, this will bring snow, a big swath of snow, even I think, into the northern plains. This is Wednesday afternoon into overnight Wednesday, bringing snow into Minneapolis, much of Wisconsin, Michigan. But you'll notice it begins to dry up a little bit. It has all of that Pacific moisture with it. It begins to lose that moisture. And it's at this point right here that you would want it to phase at the coast. And I will say, there is some energy down here at the coast, but the problem we're running into again is time. Time is not on our side. This thing is just booking it so quickly that by the time it tries to interact with this coastal energy and kind of form into one, or phasing as we call it, it's out of here. And we get some snow showers into the Northeast, and we do get a coastal storm to form, definitely. And it's not far, I will say. It's not far from something exciting. You move this way 400 or 500 miles, we got a nice snowstorm into the Northeast, but the latest model runs just have not pointed to that. Now, this is still 120 hours out. We'll watch it. Things can change. Things do change in the short range, and, for all of our snow lovers, our fingers are crossed. But right now, it looks like more of just kind of a snow shower clipper event than a big snowstorm for the Northeast. Now, Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, yeah, you folks could absolutely get blasted out of it. And as we get a little bit closer to time, we'll talk about it. But you noticed on the European here, just some snow showers into the Northeast. But what we are confident on is look at all of these blue lines. This indicates very cold air locking into the eastern half of the country just in time for the weekend before Christmas. So all of those parties you have planned, it will definitely work out. The baby it's cold outside part of the song will work, but the let it snow part, maybe not so much. Unfortunately, for a lot of folks. Now, that's the European. What about the GFS? Similar story. Here's our system up into the Rockies. Watch it kind of dive southward, bring that nice plume of snow. And it's similar again. We have a coastal storm in the southeast just offshore. We have this energy diving southward, but it's just moving too quick to really time up well for us in the United States, and then becomes, again, a nice Canadian snowstorm. And we do get snow showers. And I'll tell you, I do think that somebody could get a little surprise out of this. Notice these little pieces of energy. I'll put the map right here. This is Friday afternoon. You get a little secondary area of low pressure trying to form along the coast, and it will be cold enough that if that throws anything back inland, we could get snow showers in places that haven't really seen it, like Philly, Jersey, places like that, that really haven't seen much snow to speak of. I do think there's still the shot that happens. I just think we're running lower, we're running out of time, both on the storm speed and on the time until it happens to get a big storm on the models to kind of show up. But definitely plenty of snow showers in the Northeast and even portions of the Mid-Atlantic and kind of the apps and nice northwest flow event into next weekend. And then that cold air really locks into place by about Saturday, Sunday on the models. Now, I'll show you one more model. This is the Icon. It kind of starts the same, gets to where we need to go. But notice how it phases the storm a little bit different. Instead of phasing in the Northeast, it tries to phase off the coast of the Carolinas. And again, you get the look you want. You got a nice storm. You've got the big pocket of cold air, but it's just moving too quick and the storm forms too far offshore, and we just don't really get anything. So just kind of to tie it all up in a ribbon and bow there, I've showed the Icon to you. All right, now, does this mean it's not going to snow for anybody? No, I do think it will snow. I just don't think, again, right now at least, it looks like a big-time event. But I'll say it again, things change. This could turn into something bigger as we get a little bit closer. It would not be the first time that one of these things kind of snuck up on us. But these are the ensemble snowfall within a 24-hour period. This is starting with the GFS and its ensemble members. Here's the second storm. You'll notice that kind of area of snow showing up back out west and to the north. This is kind of the weekend storm with maybe a little bit of lake effect and that kind of band of snow that we talked about earlier. So here it comes. Dives down out of Canada, gets into the northern plains. A nice snow signal for Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, even into Michigan. But then you'll notice it gets to the Northeast and it kind of just it gets a little uglier here. We do have some highlighted areas, West Virginia, the mountains there, probably some good northwest flow, some pockets into the northeast, and maybe some higher totals. But notice it's about an even spread here from the Delmarva all the way up into the northeast on the ensembles. What that tells me is a couple things. One, probably more of a snow shower event. But you also, something I kind of want to pick out, and it's really fine in the details here. You see this little area showing up right into here of not super high totals, but a little bit higher on the totals. That's what I mean that could surprise some people. Maybe the storm does form a little bit closer to land and you get enough of that precip thrown back into some of these areas that haven't seen a lot of snow, maybe a couple snow showers, maybe even a band of snow. If it times up perfectly, not out of the question. And then the snowfall chances ease up a little bit as we get a little bit closer to Christmas. European model, same story. Here's the area back up into the northern tier of the country. A good snow signal for the same folks that I mentioned. Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Michigan. And then the European, a bit of a higher snowfall signal, and even getting a little bit further south. It's got more members getting some snow showers into Virginia, the mountains of West Virginia, into the Delmarva, and then much higher totals or higher consensus here into the interior northeast. Boston, even down into northern Jersey, New York City, Connecticut, Rhode Island. And in fact, if we change this to I'm going to do this on the fly. If we change this to the percent chance of at least an inch of snow falling. This is the analytics and me getting a little bit curious. Let's see if this even goes out far enough. Yeah, so definitely the highest chance of snow in the European ensembles right into this region, including Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York City, northern New Jersey. This is one of the rare events that if we do get the storm to form, you're actually more likely at the coast than in the interior northeast. So that's one thing. But again, still relatively low in chances, and even a couple members trying to bring some snow as far south as Virginia and North Carolina. But like I said, do not get your hopes too high, but we will definitely watch it. And still plenty to figure out with the storm, just looks less likely to be one of those big time events. Now, one thing I am very confident in is the cold air. Now, today, warm, tomorrow, that's what you're seeing on the map right now, well above average temperatures, but notice this pocket of cold air up into the northern Rockies on the way south, and there's kind of the first shot of cold air. That's Wednesday, Thursday, and getting into Friday gets us back down closer to average, not necessarily below average, but the second shot after that secondary storm system, it gets much cooler going into next week, and we're talking 10, 20, even 25, maybe 30 degrees below average in spots here in the eastern half of the United States and southeastern Canada, including kind of the major population centers like Ontario, Toronto, Quebec, and all the good areas, and they're going to get plenty of below average temperatures. And then the thought process is right after Christmas, even leading up to Christmas, it gets warm again and probably stays that way through New Year's. And then, we'll see what happens after that. Now, final thing I'll talk about is Christmas Day itself. There are some signs in the models. Maybe another storm tries to get going that could bring some impacts. This is Christmas Eve, if you will, the 23rd of December. We've got very strong high pressure and cold air left over in the east from that shot of cold air, but we're beginning to warm up out west. And with that, some storminess beginning to develop. And the European here below does try to develop a system. And check this out. Christmas Eve, we've got snow showers kind of interacting this precipitation with that cold air left over, snow showers trying to form into portions of the Midwest and into portions of the Northeast, rain down south. But then this kind of moves into that pocket of cold air and could lead to maybe some sort of wintry event. We'll watch it. The model's still all over the place. Again, this is well out into time. Now, Christmas really isn't that far away in the grand scheme of things. So, we're less than 10 days now. But we'll definitely watch it. That's the European model, the GFS. What about it? Kind of a similar story, gets a storm going and kind of has a couple snow showers or maybe some rain showers depending on your location in the eastern half of the country. But just did want to briefly mention that it does look like maybe a little storm signal right at Christmas itself. Alrighty, folks, y'all have a great rest of your day. I appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.